All right. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Welcome to Herbal Self Care Saturday. It's kind of a chilly January morning. This is our first one of the entire year. So second Saturday of every month is our plan and our goal. All right, and I have a helper. That's why I'm looking over here. Mom's over here too. She was not prepared for that. That was a surprise for her. All right. Okay, so this morning what we're going to do is we're going to kind of walk through a quick little, before we'll chat a little bit about what self-care is, or what maybe I think it is. I'll share some of my definitions and thoughts on that very, very briefly. And then I'll go ahead and show you the particular herbal goodie that I think could fit really well into your herbal self-care routine. And I have a couple of different options, sort of paths that you could take with it. And then I'll talk a little bit about some suggestions or thoughts about how you might be able to use it and when, like what time of the day, because I know sometimes when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do for self-care, I just thought, how am I going to fit this thing in? Hi, Pam. Good morning. And so that part was actually adding like stress. I was really stressed about how was I going to add this idea of, one more thing. And so on that note, actually, that's really good tangent to talking about self-care. It shouldn't be a task. It shouldn't be like one more thing to check off. I will fully own that I have a little bullet journal, which I'm using right now for my notes today. And I do write those things down that I do, like my yoga and my neti pot and eating a good breakfast. I do put those things in there and I do check them off, but I try to make sure that when I write them there, the feelings that I have when I write them down are not one of like grim accomplishment, that this is something like, oh, I have to do. That I try to embody when I'm writing, that I'm writing those down with like a feeling of joy instead, that I'm taking time. It's like a ritual and it's a practice of something, of me selecting to do these particular things because they make me feel good, they make me feel happy. And so when I write them down, I make sure that I'm writing those down with those feelings being embodied. And then also when I check them off, that I've done them, that it's a good sense of like, yes, way to go, Erin. So I did a little bit of research, as I do, about self-care before I got started on this first one. And there's so many different ideas and activities and expectations from others for what self-care can look like. And so I just sort of came up with my own definition from the different ones that I read, and I'll just read it right for you, the one that I came up with. So self-care is an activity that you do with thought and intention regularly, so again, like a practice, to take care of your mental, physical, and emotional health. And so that's again about setting aside time to honor yourself, put your needs first. Sometimes for many of us, that's difficult to do. So I really liked that definition, plus because it was talking about it again being practice, almost like a ritual. You're taking care of yourself first. You can't take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself. And that you're doing it again with thought and intention. So just like what I was talking about when I was writing it down with good thoughts. So, all right. So that was just kind of some of my thoughts about self-care. And I think with all of the different practices that we'll be sharing throughout the year, for each month, that we'll be hitting on all three of those: physical, emotional, and mental. And many of the things that we're sharing that you can do or create or buy. There's no expectation to DIY this if you don't want to, or if that's just another task for your to-do list, but you just want to buy it. It's totally okay. But you should be able to cover all three of those, I think, with even just this one that I'm going to share today. So let's go ahead and dive in. Looks like we have a few more people joining. Good morning. Happy Saturday. So the herb that we're going to be using today is calendula. And I just have, this is only a little sampling of the jar that we have. Super easy to grow. It's an annual. You can sprinkle the seeds. Even if you lived in like an apartment, you could do a little like seed bomb in the corner somewhere and sneak those in. They grow very, very easily, very prolific. Once you plant them, you probably wouldn't need to plant them again, even if you were a pretty regular harvester. They will readily self-seed themselves. So even if they're an annual, they will just come right back. So when you harvest them, we'll just do a really quick, if you choose to grow some this year, you want to harvest the entire flower head. So see how it has, my hand back up, there we go. See how it has that green part with the stem? And like the bract that's going to hold the petals coming off. You want that whole thing. So get the whole thing, not just the petals. And you can buy this locally. If you're here in the Southwest Washington, Portland area, I listed a few different places where you can buy it from. We have some. We're happy to ship it out to people. If you buy regularly, another place that we utilize sometimes is Mountain Rose Herbs, which is based in Eugene, and they ship all over. They're a really great place to get it. And I can relist those places that I suggested for the greater Portland, Vancouver, Southwest Washington area. So you can easily buy it locally, you can grow it yourself. And so we're gonna use that today. And the other thing that you need, I just use a little glass jelly jar, anything that you have that's kind of heat proof. And then I have just a little pot. And this is because you're going to use this as like a double boiler. So this is just a DIY jury-rigged double boiler. So you're going to put a little bit of water in this. I usually put it about halfway. And then I'll take my little jelly jar. Again, whatever kind of jar you have, you can just use anything like a food safe jar usually works really pretty well. This one right here that has the calendula in it is a jar from my friend's honey farm. And so this used to hold honey in it. And this would work just as fine as well. So take some of your dried calendula. We're gonna put it in the jar. It's pretty fluffy, so you could pack it down just a tiny little bit. Hi, Karina, how are you? Good to see you. All right. And so fill it maybe about halfway full. You saw I kind of did a little packing there. And then what you're going to do, just picking up my stray petals there, is you're just going to take olive oil. Now you can use coconut oil, you can use apricot, jojoba, I don't know, all different grapeseed. This is just the same olive oil that I use for cooking. So that I like to just use it because it's organic and I have it on hand and it's super easy. And so you're going to take your olive oil. Let's see if I can do this without making a mess. And you're just going to cover, make sure you cover. And what will happen is there is some air space. So I just have a spoon and you just kind of use it to poke it down there. It's a good thing I grabbed a towel off to the side that you guys can't see. Can be a little bit messy. So then you're going to take your pan that you filled partway with water and just set your jar down inside of that so it's got water in it halfway. And then you're going to set it on the stove and let it cook on low. You can do it for as little as an hour. You can do it up to a couple of hours. You can use a crock pot. So you could do a crock pot as well. When I do a crock pot, I put a lid on this loosely, and then I put the crock pot lid on. And there's water inside the crock pot, just as if you were going to do with the pan. You just fill it part way. And then I just set it on keep warm, and because it's quite warm. That's a good temperature for that. And I'll just set a timer and I'll leave it for 3 or 4 hours and then turn it off later. Or mom will turn it off for me later because it's at the farm where I'm making that sometimes. So that's it. And you strain it out so you get a nice strainer. Again, this is just straight from my kitchen, like something that I already have in my kitchen. And hopefully these are things that you have in your kitchen too. And you just take your jar. I'm gonna have another one for demo. See, it's got a nice label. It's been used many times. And just pour it out. Compost your oil covered calendula. I will oftentimes take my spoon and just give it a little smoosh, a little press, and get the last little bits of really good calendula infused oil out. And you have that then strained into a nice clean jar. And this should last for 6 months to a year, especially if it's in a pretty dark, cool place. And so then you can use that for dry skin, which I don't know about anybody else, but that is happening, dry skin in the winter time, right now. Another option that I did want to share, because thinking of dry skin, olive oil can be a little bit sticky, and so can coconut oil. So I find them sometimes with dry skin, especially if it's really dry. And oh, yes, you could probably use an Instant Pot. I don't know. I just never figured out how the Instant Pot that my husband bought me as a gift, I never figured it out. Mom's laughing because the Instant Pot and I just could not be friends. I don't know why. One thing about the Instant Pot I would be concerned about, because you're pressure cooking it as well, I would just be really careful about the temperature, because you'll hear a lot of herbalists talk about being really careful to not burn or scorch your herbs when you're making infusions like this with oil or butter. Oh, thanks, Pam. I'm glad to hear somebody else is not friends with an Instant Pot. Yeah, good for you people who are like one with the Instant Pot. It's not me. Oh, yeah, you would just probably use the crock pot, Leah. Yes, that's the crock pot. Yes, on the slow cooker setting. Oh, okay, you would use the Instant Pot on the slow cooker setting. Cool. Thanks, Leah. See, I don't know all of those things because I don't have an Instant Pot. I returned it very promptly. So olive oil, coconut oil, olive oil I feel like soaks in a little bit better to dry hands more quickly. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't like sticky type of feeling, and it depends on when it is that you're going to use the oil, so that might influence it too. My recommendation for the infused oil is to do it in the evening, and you can use it on your hands, you can use it on your feet, you can use it on dried lips. If you get sick and you have a cold or something like that, and you're blowing your nose a lot, like the edges of your nose, you can that can get really red and dry. And I know that happens to my husband a lot in the wintertime, or when he gets ill and is blowing his nose. So you can use it that way. And I would use it in the evening, and I would rub it in to your hands and get a cheap pair of those like $1 stretchy gloves at the store. And I would put those on. And then for me, I read before I go to bed. So I would rub that oil really good into my hands. Again, I would be using olive oil. In this instance, you could use coconut oil. And then I would just read my book and do that right before I went to bed. And you'll find that with the gloves on and on your feet, if you do socks, the oil will soak right in. So I've done this before with my son with garlic infused olive oil on his feet, and I've had no problems with the oil getting on the sheets or anything like that. You'll wake up and you'll be like, whoa, and they'll feel nice and soft and buttery, and it'll be really good. So jojoba and apricot are usually lighter oils, so you might consider using those if you're going to put it on your hands and then go about your day and you need to be doing your typing or computer work or things around the house or stuff like that. So lighter oils, if you're going to use it during the day, you can do thicker, stickier oils like coconut or olive if you're going to do it in the evening. And then another alternative would be to do shea butter. So when I posted pictures earlier in the week with the, and I'm looking because I thought I had my shea butter tub here, but I can go grab it in just a second. It's in the bathroom. I think it's under the sink. My lovely assistant / business partner is helping me. So I posted pictures earlier in the week in the event, and I did the exact same thing. So I just scooped out some shea butter, put it into, because it's kind of a solid butter. It's a white tub. Yes, she found it. Yay. We're at my house today instead of at her house. So I just scooped some of it out. And and I'll show you. I buy it by the pound in a 1 pound tub from Mountain Rose Herbs. But again, there's several places locally in Southwest Washington, Portland area that you can get it. There's what it looks like. This is unrefined, so it does have a little bit of a scent to it. If that is something that you do not enjoy, then you should get the refined shea butter. But I just do unrefined. Shea butter is so fantastic even by itself for skin. So my son has really bad eczema, and this is the thing. And sometimes in the winter, in the past, his knuckles and hands have cracked really bad. And just even plain shea butter by itself has been a miracle for saving his hands. So the other day with those pictures I posted in the event, I just scooped some of that shea butter out, put it into the jar. So this is going to be sort of opposite directions from the making the infused oil. You're going to put your butter in there first and put it into your little makeshift double boiler with the water in the pan. And you're going to let it melt first, slightly so it gets liquidy. And then you're going to go ahead and put your calendula flowers in there. And then I just used my little spoon and I just added enough calendula flowers as they softened and got soaked in with the shea butter, liquid shea butter. And so I did go back and add a few more as it sort of cooked down just a little bit. And then I just left it on the stove for about 45 minutes on low, and then I turned it off and I let it cool down. And before I went to bed, I almost forgot. Before I went to bed, I strained it off, just same method with my little strainer. And I just strained it straight into, this is one of my containers that I use to make yogurt snacks for my son. So, and they get made for a whole week and put in the fridge. So it's just a food container. And this is the completed shea butter. So this is going to be a little bit harder. Let's see if I can show you. So I did have to press a little bit. It is still going to retain a little bit of that. So see how I have to kind of rub? So my hands are getting quite warm, which is nice actually, because I usually have cold hands. And I'll show you. See how my hands are a little bit shiny? So shea butter is going to have that kind of almost like maybe sticky feeling, just a little bit like the olive oil, and it'll take a little bit for it to soak in, but I really, really, really love it for dry skin. So it's going to soak in and my hands are going to be great in just a little bit. This is really good too. The reason I like the shea butter as well is that you can give yourself almost like a little hand massage. So I like to be able to do that as well. And so that's why it's really good in the evening, especially if you work with your hands at all, then you can be able to massage that in. Sometimes it can feel odd to take the extra time to be able to do this. I'm doing yoga with Adriene, the 30 Days Yoga with Adriene, and I am a yoga with Adriene I don't know, maybe even borderline proselytizer, but I follow her online all the time. And she actually this morning's day 8 practice was all about like massaging your feet. And so I don't know, that's one of my favorite parts of yoga practice is giving myself a foot massage during yoga practice. So you can see like it's taken me pretty much this entire time you've watched me rub my hands, and it's just now starting to get soaked in. So that's just something to know about shea butter. For those of you who texture or feel or greasy feeling like that might be an issue. I've never used the refined shea butter, so the refined shea butter might be just a little less greasy and might soak in a little bit faster. That's something else to consider. So you have now 2 options. You have your calendula infused olive oil that you could use, or any other kind of oil, just kind of whatever you have on hand. Don't make it complicated. Just make it work with whatever it is that you have, and just try to move forward. And then you can refine after you make it the first time. I used just like a couple of big tablespoonfuls, and that made this amount of shea butter the other day. And this will last for quite a long time, for several months. So you can just make a little tiny amount. It doesn't take very much. Maybe you have a gardening friend who grew some calendula, and you can just get a little small amount. It wouldn't even take this much. Oh, Pam, great question. What about the calendula is really good for this? So calendula, and that's why I said to make sure to get the green parts of the flower, is that it has these kind of resins in it. So if you've ever harvested it or played with it, you'll get sticky resin on your fingers. And the resin that's in the plant or in the flower head, the herb, is really, really good for open wounds, for dry skin. It's antifungal. Historically in World War II, when soldiers were across the pond and fighting in the wars, they would actually use calendula because they could find it growing wild in the fields as they were marching from place to place, and they would use it to pack wounds, and so they would use it as a battlefield herbal, and it worked really well, and it saved people's lives. So it's really, really good. That resinous stickiness is really, really good to help bring and hold moisture to your skin. So again, dry, cracked things, cuticles. Yes, thank you, Pam, for asking that question. I appreciate that too, and so does Jamie. Awesome. So yeah, that's the really great thing about calendula. You could use other herbs if you had them available. I just particularly liked calendula. Again, it's easy to grow. It's really super helpful for skin. It's worked really well in our family. Some other herbs that you could use could be plantain. You could use yarrow. You could use roses. I don't see why you couldn't use that too. But for dry skin, we're washing our hands all of the time. It's cold, all of that kind of good stuff. So, all right. So the very last couple things that I had before we wrap up this morning is that I had suggested doing this as sort of an evening practice. And I actually had one other little self-care thing that I like to do that I thought I would share with you. And I'll put the link in the description or in the discussion of the event after the event is over. And there is this YouTube channel that does really great, like 30-minute meditation. It's just music. And I just particularly like the music, and I like the length of it because that's probably about as long as I can sit. And sometimes I'll just sit quietly for a few minutes and then I'll write in my journal. But this could be where you're giving yourself, if you're massage, so this could be like a moving meditation where you're rubbing the shea butter, infused shea butter or infused oil into your hands and your feet before you go to bed, and just have some nice quiet music on. So I will make sure to post that link in the discussion, so you'll have that little resource that I like as well in case you're interested. And before we wrap up today, one of my amazing friends who is an acupuncturist actually gave me a gift certificate, and so I'm going to give that away. So what you have to do to be entered to win the gift certificate, here's how it's going to go, is you take a photo of either the infused oil or the infused shea butter that you end up making. It does not have to be with calendula, so you can do it. Take the picture of you making it, take the picture of you using it, take a picture of the finished thing. Oh yes, Carmen, I will post my yoga person too. So finished product, using it, making it, whatever, something that has to do with that you did it. Show that you did something that, and maybe it's you like giving yourself a foot massage. That's cool too. It's whatever you took from this self-care practice today. Post something about that, post a picture, and then tag on Facebook, tag Garden Delights, so tag us, or if you're going to do it on Instagram, please use the hashtag Herbal Self Care Saturday. And I will put all of these details in the discussion. And so we'll give you guys 3 weeks to be able to do that. So 3 weeks from today, which is January 30th, then I'll look for all of those names of people and I'll put them into a hat and we'll draw one out. So to decide if you want to be entered, it's from Starfire Acupuncture and Herbs. She's based in Battleground, and it's for a free complimentary acupuncture session, which is super amazing self-care. So that will be super cool. Thank you, Lori, for giving that to me so that I could then make it available to all of you. I think that's pretty much all I have. So I have all of my things that I've promised to share. I will make sure to put those links in the discussion so that you can see those. Please go forward and do something with this that I've shared today. It would be really exciting. So that would be really great. And everybody have a great rest of the weekend and a good start to the new year. Thanks, everyone. Bye.